Okay, what's up, guys? My name is Solo Cisse. I am the co-founder and CEO of Galaxy. Today, you guys are joining us for It's Your World from Creator to CEO panel. We are going to be joined by three lovely women that are going to be taking the stage to talk about the importance of creative ownership, self-sovereignty, and the future of social media. And I should also note that it was a happy International Women's Day, so super excited to have three lovely women join us as well. Just a little background on myself. In Galaxy, we're an up-and-coming social platform. We really do call it a platform. We believe in empowering creators instead of focusing on trying to appeal to independent algorithms that belong to centralized companies. We see a world where creators themselves turns into businesses and much more than that. And so we're super excited to talk about the next step of what content creation looks like, and really focusing on building that future of self-sovereignty and creative ownership. So I'll keep it brief and introduce the panel as we have them. So, but before then, we'll also preview a quick video to showcase what our platform looks like. And if you're interested in learning more, feel free to reach out to anybody that you see in the audience with the cool little purple Myro sweaters and hoodies. Make sure you guys get some swag out there at the front if you guys haven't already. And again, thank you guys for joining us for the conversation, and we hope that you guys enjoy the talk. Thanks.
The creator economy is broken.
No one is too big to fail.
No platform is ultimately safe.
Social media app TikTok going dark.
Audiences, creator apps are fragmenting into a million pieces.
Creator burnout is real.
And follower reach is under attack. And the worst part about all this is platforms have all the power.
You deserve better. Better job security, better assurances, better deals, better access, a better life. You need a home base, away from all the noise. A slice of real estate on the home screen, under your command.
Galaxy isn't just another creator app. It's your app in your world.
Introducing Worlds by Galaxy.
Worlds are online social clubs owned by their creators. Worlds do two things: community ownership and direct fan monetization.
All on a slice of digital land that you own and control. Translation?
No one can fuck with you and your fans. Not even the Galaxy team.
Ownership is the key.
When you rent property, you're on someone else's turf, subject to their views, their values, their policies, their guidelines. But when you own the property, you're the boss. It's your show, your audience. When you own the property, you aren't just a creator.
You're a business. You get it? We're not saying give up on the big platforms. We're just saying diversify. Hedge your bet. Build an audience you can hold in your hands forever.
It's just smart business. Own your world.
Can you guys hear me? We're at South by, guys. I need a little bit more energy. Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Sierra Mari. I'm head of marketing at Galaxy. I'm so excited to be here today. I'm so excited to introduce our panelists. Please come up, ladies. Jamila Bell and Mecca Evans. Please let's give them a round of applause. How are we feeling today? Oh, everybody. Thank you. Okay. I'm about to say, it's a Monday, but we're at South by, so we need a little bit more energy today. So I want to, of course, introduce the ladies, but I also want to set the tone for today's conversation. I know we're at a festival. There's a lot of panels going on. But we really want this to feel like a family convo at a dinner table. I feel like the creator economy is always so corporate nowadays. And so what better way to have a real conversation than just let's keep it raw, uncut, and real. So please, let's give it up for our panelists once again, Jamila Bell and Mecca Evans. So Jamila and Mecca, I know I can introduce you guys. I'll give a brief intro, but I would love for you guys to introduce yourselves. These two ladies are not only college friends that have set the tone, especially on TikTok and social platforms, but they are really setting the tone of what it means to be a modern day creator and continuing to be yourself and staying authentic. So ladies, go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Wow. Like she said, my name is Jamila Bell. I'm a content creator. I started making content about 2011. Currently, my biggest platform is on TikTok. But, you know, I'm everywhere. And recently, me and Mecca started a podcast called Unhinged and Immoral. And from there, we've just been kind of exploding. It's really given me a platform to do a lot of the other things that I'm really invested in, which is like film and television, all of those good things, yeah.
Period. What about you, Mecca?
My name is Mecca. I've been making content for around the same time. I feel like if you're of a certain age, you grew up making YouTube, Vine. So I've just always been talking smack on the internet, and it's brought me to the South by Southwest stage, which is pretty cool. I'm not just cussing on the internet anymore, Mom.
Yeah.
I'm going somewhere.
Okay, period. So I want to get into the fact that you guys have been doing content creation for a long time. And so when you guys got into content, was it just something as like an expression for you, or was that something always the goal of like, we want to scale being creators and being media moguls?
I've always wanted to be famous. That's, if anybody, all of my family will tell you, ever since I was young, I want to be famous. I'm going to figure out a way to get there. Yeah. Acting and all of those things has always been my goal. Me and my brother started creating content because that's just what we do in real life. We literally act a fool in front of our parents. So we were like, my mom just got a new computer. Let's make a skit. Yeah. And it just kind of went from there. I didn't know it would turn into this necessarily, but the goal is still kind of there, yeah.
I would say like the same. I knew I wanted to be in the limelight. Means of getting there, like we went to school together. So at first I was like, I'll be a news anchor. And then I was like, no, I'll just work in PR. And that wasn't a lot of money. So I quickly changed careers, and we've landed here. But all throughout that, we made content. So, and it was, for me, it was an outlet just to have fun.
Yeah. And so I'm curious too, because I feel like a lot of creators who have big dreams that want to work in entertainment, myself included, they have this idea of what that process actually is like. And so I'm curious about you all's experience when you guys first got into content creation and really started going viral. Was it what you were expecting?
No. So my first time going viral was in 2012. It was not planned. It was unexpected. It hit us like a ton of bricks, and I thought, now I'm about to be famous, and I'm gonna be a millionaire. Yeah. I don't even have to go to college. This is it. And all that was numbers. It didn't translate to that at all, so I was gooped and gagged. But now, present day, having all of these viral moments, I learned how to make it into a career, but it doesn't necessarily turn into a career on its own. It's
and a meme. She's the hot Cheeto girl meme.
Yeah.
That's interesting too, because I feel like a lot of times creators, when they get more into a serious mindset about their content creation, it's like they hit certain challenges, and sometimes they allow those challenges to deter them. But you guys have really been like, actually, we're gonna go even more hard. So I'm just so curious about like that and that process of you guys.
I think for me personally, it's the fact that I didn't take social media serious. I have a couple of things, like not going against me, but we're obviously Black. Yeah. My parents are older. One of my parents' family is not from America. So it was just kind of like, go to college, get a real job, stop playing. And it was never taken seriously, honestly, until last year.
Really?
Yeah, no, when it was our publicist, Valise, we're friends, and so we were on the phone, and she was like, you really got something. You need to be really thinking. And this was around the time they had first announced the first TikTok ban last March. And so that's when my head started working, like, okay, because like I said, to my mom, I was just like cussing on the internet, like it's just fun. And then I was like, what if we do a podcast? Yeah. And who can I do a podcast with? And Jamila and I said we were always going to be famous, so we could just do a podcast together.
Yeah.
And from there, it like everything has really just happened as it should. You know?
As it should.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because I feel like the TikTok algorithm, it has this thing about knowing what people want to see and it's pushing them out. And so how would you guys describe your niche? Because I feel like it's commentary, it's a little bit of cultural. I feel like you guys do educate people on a lot of different topics as well. Also, as we all know, creators are not monoliths, so it's okay to be multifaceted. But I am curious of how you guys describe yourselves and see yourselves.
I would say no niche was always what I said, and then I realized that, oh, me having no niche is actually a niche.
Yeah.
So that was like, I didn't want to box myself in because I know I want to talk about different things. Anything that interests me is what I'm going to talk about on my platforms. Yeah. It could be when the presidential election was going on, what was happening with that. It could be the Real Housewives of Atlanta, which came on yesterday.
Yeah.
It just is a matter of like what has my attention at that moment.
For me, it depends on the time you ask me.
Okay.
My content has changed over the years and what I focus on. When I first got onto making content, it was strictly skits, comedy skits. And then when I kind of made my resurgence onto social media, I took a stab at doing a lot of political content, which I enjoy, but it was not something I wanted to stay in because you just attract a certain audience when you're only talking about political things.
So strict.
And they're so strict, and I'm like,
don't laugh
guys,
at all.
Yeah. I laugh way more than this, and I'm done with talking about that. So then I went back to being unserious, doing skits, being myself, and talking about things that I just wanted to talk about. So just a wide variety of things. And I guess the way I determine on whether or not I'm going to speak on something is, can I add a perspective that nobody else has added?
Very true.
And can I make this funny?
If
I don't answer those two questions, I'll be like,
really,
never mind.
As we get further along in terms of what we choose to speak on, can I make this funny and relatable is like guiding light.
That's so interesting, though, because I feel like the next question I was going to ask you guys is, like, how do you guys stay authentic? I feel like there's so many marketers on TikTok. They're like, oh, you need to post 5 times a day. You need to have everything super planned out. And you guys, will get on at night and be like, this is how I feel. So how do you guys motivate yourself to continue to be yourselves?
It's not hard to be yourself when you're just being yourself. I don't know how to make that any more plain. I don't know how to be anybody else. And you can tell if I'm being unauthentic. And I feel like all of those, you need to wake up in the morning and it has to be at 9 a.m. and then 5 p.m. I feel like that works for companies who are trying to post social media for their jobs and things like that. But when you're trying to be a creator, girl, you can watch all the tips and tricks you want to. If you're boring, you just gonna be boring, baby. You're gonna have to figure something out, and you're gonna have to just give us a little bit more spunk. People ask me all the time, well, what should I do? Make good content.
Yeah.
I fear.
I think like the one plus of me not taking content seriously is that I was always myself in my content, and it's something that I can maintain. I think where a lot of content creators get caught up is like, I need to be perfect on camera all the time, whereas like I was always in my bed, in my bonnet, talking smack, which it doesn't matter how much money I make or where I'm at in the world or where I'm sleeping. There's always a headboard, there's always a bonnet, and there's always my phone. So, and there's always a topic to talk about, which is super easy and makes my job now super easy.
Yeah. And so I'm curious, you guys have been doing this for a while, and I know sometimes people get a little nervous when you start talking about numbers, but we are talking about from creators to CEOs, so it's so important to talk about how do you do this like sustainably, right? And so I am curious on you all's opinion of the current landscape right now for creators and their ability to monetize right now.
It's harder than it was even a couple years ago. But it's not, I don't think it's impossible. I think it's harder if you have a couple isms on you, which obviously we're Black women and we know that our content monetarily is not treated the same way as everyone else's. So in terms of the opportunities that we've created for ourselves, that's the biggest thing. People are talking about like, how are you guys making money? we have figured it out. Like, we know we're going to get these amount of eyes on us. What are we going to put on screen to sell for ourselves, per se? Like, I started a business in Houston where I live, so that was easy for me to target my audience. Like, we sell products outside of TikTok that you can come and you can buy in spa, or you can buy it from me online. That's how I created opportunities for myself.
Love that.
I didn't start making enough money from social media to be able to like self-sustain until October of last year. To put in perspective, so 14 years of making content. I had been working a real regular job all the way up until then, and even still I'm kind of like, what is it safe?
Not too much.
You know, because they did shut us down a little while ago, so it gets scary, it gets spooky. And like she said, with those stacked marginalizations against us, it gets a little wicked, because unfortunately there just is a discrepancy when it comes to making money as a content creator, because there's a couple different ways you can monetize. There's the platform, and as far as the platform is concerned, for the most part, that's even playing field, right? Because it's based off of your views, your algorithm, your RPM, cool. Where it gets scary is them brand deals.
Let's unpack
brand
it.
will look at you with all your followers and go, no.
Yep.
So that's the part that is very scary. But what I've noticed is, honestly, at some point, your popularity and your brand as itself is going to just push through, and you're going to still be able to grab a hold. It may not be the big boys. You may not get all of the big ones, but you're going to get some ones that are going to align with you. And honestly, that's more important anyway, to work with a brand that aligns with who you are versus just grabbing the big money. Because sometimes you may have to make apologies.
Yes. And turn some deals down too. A lot. And I'm curious too, like, I feel like I've seen you guys obviously on my TL for a minute now, but I am curious in terms of how many, if we can share, how many brand deals have you all had previously?
The most amount of brand deals I had was this past year, and it was because of the election cycle. Prior to last year, it was like a 1. 6 months later, 2. A year later, 3.5.
So
it was very
inconsistencies.
sparse, very inconsistent, and they were lowballing as well. I'm still being lowballed. I had somebody, reach out and offer nothing but commission. Well, I can't pay my bills on commission.
Definitely can't do that. But it's interesting, though, because I think you both obviously have had such a strong presence on social media, but you guys are also CEOs in real life outside of content creation. So how do you guys balance, like, being a CEO as a creator, but then also being a CEO of your actual real-time businesses, if you guys didn't know?
That's on. I've only had one brand deal for glasses. I'm blind, and I've been wearing glasses since I was 5 years old. So since I have had a business and I was working a job that allowed me a very stable and comfortable income, I was never, like I said, it was fun for me. So I didn't want to do any brand deals. I was like, and I don't want to be lowballed because I know what I'm bringing to the table. So unless it's something like y'all are sending me 10 free pairs of glasses, because glasses can get very expensive, I'm really good on that. For my own business, though, I think time management is, like, I know that sounds really cliche, but time management is the biggest thing. When I first started making content, a lot of people noticed that it was always at nighttime. I was always in my bonnet. I was always in bed. Well, because during the day I'm at work. So I'm not making content while I'm at work. I'm not doing that. I'm coming home. I'm watching The Housewives, and this is what I'm doing. So I think that's how, I maintained it. What did you do, Jamila?
For me, I was very intentional with entering the workforce once I graduated from college. I originally wanted to step right into production, like, okay, I graduated, let me be the next big director. And then I realized, well, you can't go on Indeed and say, I'd like to direct this film. And it's just not how it works. So I decided at that moment in 2020, I'm just going to start my production company, and I'm going to work a 9-to-5 that allows me flexibility so that I can take off whenever I want to, so that I can pour into my company. And as my social media started to grow, it's always on my mind that this is a stepping stone, this is a platform to guide me back into my company so that I can raise money for this, so I can have more eyes to this. And it's just something that has allowed me to kind of blossom and get more opportunities. Because I'm so aware now and people are aware of me, it allows me to kind of expand my network, and I'm just always pouring it back into my production company.
That's incredible. And can we just give these ladies a round of applause, please, really quick, for all the work that they've done so far? I think a lot of people sleep on the fact that creativity is a job, editing videos is a job, making sure that your audiences are happy is a job. And I'm curious, how
they don't be happy all the time.
Not all the
They'll tell us no
time.
when they're not happy with us.
And I was gonna ask you, how do you guys navigate parasocial relationships? Because I know that being someone who people see you as their internet cousins, sometimes, you know, people get connected, right? As they should, as creators do. But how do you guys navigate that and set that boundary of like, yes, you guys can agree with what we're saying, but y'all also don't know us in real life?
For one, I don't share a lot of my personal information. I don't, people feel like they know me because I'm expressing my personality.
Yes.
But I don't share damn near anything about my actual life, even to this day, people are still like, wait, you have a child? Exactly. I live my life outside of social media is very private. It's my own. And so I think that helps a little bit. But outside of that, like I said, I'm coming on the internet for entertainment purposes, and I'm here to make y'all laugh and escape your real life. And if you get mad at that, baby, you just not my type of person. I'm gonna giggle and laugh at even the darkest of times. So if that's just not you, then we just don't see each other.
Yeah.
I've kind of had to learn as I go. I never got too far off in the deep end with sharing my business, but I know when I first started making TikToks, I was like 24, 25, I was doing like a lot of my dating life. And then, now I'm about to be 29, so it's like, I don't want to tell y'all my business like that no more. I want to tell y'all who I'm with. And so I remember the moment that I was like, oh, I need to stop talking about my dating life. I was on a date, and I was dating this Nigerian boy, so I had named him the green and white boy. And then I was on a date with another man who was not even from that country. He's from Ethiopia. I had a girl come up to me and be like, is this the green and white boy? I said, girl, are you crazy? First of all, no, he's Ethiopian. Yeah. But that, like, what I'm trying to say is, that's that trial and error stuff that you just learn, and you're like, okay, I can't tell y'all this. Yeah. And then I had my little cousin living with me. I never showed her face because I felt like she was, at the time, 12 and 14, the year she was living with me, and I was like, she's old enough that she needed to have her own independence and, school, and we are regular working class people. So, like, we don't have security, so is that element of people coming up, asking for pictures. If you catch us in the store, you can kind of learn our schedule, and you have to learn to keep your head on a swivel and like, oh, I need to be aware of like where I'm at, what I'm posting, who I'm posting around. Do I want to put the kids on the internet? Do I want to put my mama on the internet? Like all these moving parts that it can get sticky sometimes. You're just like,
Okay. So I want to get into a little bit more of like the ownership conversation, because I think one thing that you guys own so beautifully are your brands, right? And your likeness. I think even when I said, I told you guys before you even came to South by, I like to keep things real and transparent. We were brainstorming of what we were going to do at South by, and a lot of people internally on our team mentioned Mecca and Jamila. And so I'm curious of like, in terms of owning your brands, how do you guys, or what is that process like when you guys are considering scaling and really evolving?
That's number one of importance for me always. My mama is a very much business lady. I've heard her ask questions my whole life, and it transcended to me. So when we started talking to our producer of our podcast and talking about platforms that we were going to go on and networks that we're going to be a part of, I asked him every single time, do we own this? Yeah. What is the percentage? How is this going to be breaking down? I'm always asking questions because I don't ever want to get trapped in the old 360 deal, if you will. I want to make sure that we're able to own our likeness, but also have that creative control. I don't want to be able to, go somewhere and have somebody speak for me or have somebody, misconstrue what we've built. That's really important. And same with, my personal brand. The first thing that I did was create a trademark for it because I'm like, y'all ain't finna grab that name.
Hey, with that.
Let me go ahead and do that real quick.
Yep.
So we've always been very, consistent on that. Like, let's break down. It sounds good.
Yeah.
Let's read the fine print.
Yeah.
And
That's
on the
important.
flip, if you're someone like me who might not necessarily think about those things, I always knew like there are important questions to be asked. I don't necessarily know what to ask, but I know Jamila and how she is, and she knows how to ask them.
Yeah.
So I think being able to pick out your strengths and weaknesses and being real with yourself and being like, I don't know what to ask, but I know what I need to do.
Yeah.
And I know there are people around me who do know what to ask, and not being afraid to like link up with those people and say, hey, like, what are we supposed to ask?
No, this is really good. And, something that I really admire about you both, and one of the first things I mentioned to you when I met you guys was you guys had a bit of a spicy moment on social last year, but you guys handled it so beautifully. And I think a lot of creators, when they're put in position with other creators and there's a lot of misunderstandings and you have to go out of your way to clear things up on the internet that may not even be true, a lot of people, they start crashing out. And you guys did the complete opposite, and you guys really carried yourself as CEO. So I want to give you your flowers in front of everyone on how you handled that.
Thank you.
But then too, like, what was your mindset of how to handle that situation and navigate that situation appropriately like a CEO?
I don't ever want to give anybody the power to dictate how I react to things. Anytime anything happens on a large scale or a small scale, I always just take a step back and a moment to assess, like, I can have my feelings, but my feelings don't always have to be projected. Yeah. And so I thought it was really important for us to kind of just take that beat. But I'm also, to put it plainly, I'm not scary. Nobody puts fear in my heart but my mama.
Okay.
So, I wanted to, address it and really just do what I need to do, because I know that at the end of the day, we do owe our fans and our supporters, that much of explanation, especially if you feel like you are being misunderstood. And if you have that moment and if you have that platform to do so, then do it. But we're going to control it.
Right.
And we're going to do it on our own time.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Well, I'm a recovering crash out myself. So, and at that point, that happened 3 weeks into us having the podcast. I don't think people realize, like, we had literally, like I said, there was a timeline of Valise and I talked in February. I started trying to figure out the podcast stuff in the summertime. I came to Jamila with my idea in like August. We started the podcast in November. That happens within November, December. And so we also were like, trying to pivot into this is like really our jobs now. So we have to treat this like our jobs. And as before I had my business, in which I have a medical spa in Houston, I was a Nordstrom girl. The pandemic was the only reason I didn't climb up the ladder in Nordstrom. Yeah. And like the biggest thing there was the customer's always right.
Yep.
If you were trying to return them fake bags, but you carry it in a certain way. So I applied that to my own business, and then I applied it to this, like, okay, this is a situation where you have to pause and say, okay, I hear you, but, and proceed. And if y'all want to hear what we have to say, we have a podcast that you can come listen to.
I was going to add one more thing. I think it's also important to know that you don't have to continuously overly explain yourself. You don't have to do that. And it's hard to not fall into that trap of like, but I just want everybody to hear me out. And it's like, nope, that's not real life, babes.
Yeah.
Say your piece and move on.
Yeah.
Like, move on. Don't stay on. Really, that's just in general. Don't stay on the topic too long. Girl, we don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Just go on.
Don't stay on a topic or a man too long.
Okay. And I love that. And I love that that's the perspective that you guys had, because I think so many people who saw how you guys handled it kind of set a tone really for a lot of creators. And I think as women too, we get put the notion that we can be a bit emotional, but you guys really handled that as bosses. And so I am curious on like future goals for you guys and how you guys see your creativity evolving. We know that, TikTok is here for now. But I am curious in terms of how you guys see yourselves branding and just really evolving creatively.
Right now, I mean, again, TikTok is in the wind. We don't know what's going on. we're working with Galaxy. We plan on building our Galaxy worlds up. You know, it gives a little MySpace energy. I'm really excited about that.
Yes.
My profile and stuff. We're going full throttle with the podcast. We're in the process of planning a live show. Hopefully that turns into a tour. Individually, we have our own things that we are trying to do. We're both theater kids. You were the theater major. You was a theater major, film? I was a minor. So I do think that we want to transition into doing TV, hosting, that type of thing. But, I mean, whatever finds me. I don't know if she feels the same way. Whatever finds me, I'm open to.
Okay.
Yeah, I really want to pour into my production company. Film and television is like my heart and soul. So I want to, you know, definitely get back into the audition sphere at some point. And really writing those stories. What I really appreciate about film and television is the ability to curate a story for escapism in and of itself. Yeah. And so I want to get back into that. Same as she said, hosting, really going full throttle on our podcast and seeing where that can take us. That's honestly just been so exciting, just seeing how that has been evolving. And like she said, we're planning the live show. The first one is going to be in Atlanta, which is going to be really fun because, like, dang, we were really there. Like, we can really do that. It's time for that. That's cool. So, yeah, just all the things.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are constantly creating opportunity for yourselves. So I think this is just the next evolution of that. But I want to kind of take a step back and, like, ask, for yourselves that were first starting content back in 2011, 2012, what pieces of advice would you give yourselves and why?
Do not stop making content. I was very embarrassed when I first started making content. It was not cool like it was.
That's
in
true.
2011. Everybody wants to be a content creator now, and I love that. And I say go for it. I'm always telling people to do it. But in 2011, when I was in high school, I was the only one in my school making content like that. And it was awkward. And the only people that I really wanted to know were my super close friends. And I heard people say things about it like, oh, that's lame as hell, that's this, that's that. And it made me feel very uncomfortable, like self-conscious about it. I would still do it, but I never promoted it. I never talked about it in front of people. When I went to college, at Hampton, which is where I met Mecca, that was the first time I had met people that thought it was interesting. And maybe it's because, you know, different town, you don't know nobody. And they were like, that's actually kind of cool. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And so I wish I would have just stuck with it and just fought against my own insecurities with that. That's what I would tell myself. Just keep doing it.
Yeah.
I might not say anything different. Because when I was making content before, I've always done it for fun. It's never been serious. So I don't think I would do anything different because I'm really happy the way that I started. Since it wasn't serious, there's nothing for me to maintain. Like, that's not easy for me to maintain. I really do like the way that I eased myself into content. And in fact, I tell everyone, like content creators, please don't quit your job.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I had parents who was like, please don't, like, go do something with yourself before you go full into this. Because at the point in which we decided to make this a career, we had 2 legs to stand on, not even just one.
Right.
So, and we had I have a savings account to stand on for a minute. So it's like, that stuff is important.
Yeah.
Just, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I love how we're kind of jumping between like past and present. And so obviously we know like the past content wasn't necessarily as popular. We know now everybody and their mom and their kids and Gen Alpha and everybody wants to create content and just express themselves, right? Like I think storytelling is a part of humanity and just humanity's legacy at the end of the day. And so as technology is evolving, storytelling also has to evolve. And so I am curious like how you guys see, you know, storytelling evolving over the next, let's say 5 years for you guys.
Oh, I mean, storytelling is everything. I try to take people along the journey, along the ride. I try to entertain the folks while I talk. I want it to be an experience, even if I'm telling a story, even if I'm talking about something silly that happened. I want people to kind of feel like they're in the room with me at all times.
Yeah.
storytelling is as old as time. The mediums are going to change, but that is always going to remain the same. We're always going to be creatures of habits. We are community-based people, and I feel like stories, in whatever way they display themselves, is always going to be such a pillar of our community and so important. And sometimes I think it's easy for people to kind of like downplay social media because it's like, oh, it's just you kids and your phones. But it's like, well, social media is moving. You know, 10 years ago, we didn't have social media departments in companies.
Right.
And now we do. And now I'm on a panel.
There we go. Micah, what about you?
I think obviously storytelling is really important, but especially like in the cultures that we come from, oral storytelling is a thing.
Absolutely.
My hearing stories from both sides of my family, like my mom's family's from Kenya, so hearing about, oh my God, like, and I personally haven't been, but like hearing about stories from another country. My dad's side of the family's from Louisiana. I'm from California, so like that's even like a whole different. I loved sitting under my like grandparents, my aunts, my uncles, and just hearing about their childhood and like where they were at, what they were doing. And I think that the storytelling that we do is going to be reflective of the past always. And that's something that I aim to do in my content, and why it is important for us to stay authentic to ourselves, because I want you to see my family in me. I want you to know where I come from and that they have paved the road for me. And when we're talking about being authentic to ourselves and being, you know, palatable to brands, if I have to strip that away, then I don't want to be palatable, because that is who I am.
Right.
So whatever opportunities that are created for us and by us, those are actually the only opportunities that I want.
Period. So I'm going to ask one last question before we open up to the audience. So I know you guys were talking about there have been brands that obviously approached you all. I know you guys are quite popular on the net, so I'm sure you guys get hit all the time. What made you guys say yes to Galaxy, really, and what interested you about it?
Shout out Jalen, shout out Hampton. We went to college with one of your colleagues, and he DM'd me. I actually met Jalen because the dorm I worked in for my work study freshman year, he lived in. Oh, wow. And he was always super cool. He wasn't like a weird guy. Yeah. And we talked about like the Forex stuff. Yeah. And we said it during our Get Ready With Me too. We went to at Hampton, there was like a group of boys who were like hawking Forex, hawking Legal Shield, hawking Bitcoin, and all this different stuff, right? But Jalen was never like on that, and in fact, he's like a photographer. I didn't know he had a real job until like we got on the call. I was like, I thought you've been taking pictures this whole time. So when he DM'd me, I was like, it was that familiarity, honestly. In terms of, oh, this is someone I know in real life. He's cool, we get on the call. His vibe was good, obviously. Your vibe was great. And then everything just went from there.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm very like in my say yes era. Like I've been trying to tell myself, try to take those opportunities, fight against your social anxiety, and just get out there, because you're not going to get to the place you want to until you do it. So to be honest, all I read was, do you want to get on a panel and talk?
You remember the meeting? She didn't know. She didn't know what South by Southwest was. She thought we were talking about Southwest Airlines.
I thought Southwest Airlines was having a convention, and I thought they wanted some social media creators.
Planes been falling out the sky. She thought they was trying to get their PR up.
I said, well, that's a great idea.
So I was like, sign me up. Do we want to go to South by Southwest?
Yes. I said, well, that sounds amazing. Sign me up. And so when we actually got on the call and we got a chance to talk to y'all, and y'all were explaining this amazing platform, I said, now hold on, is this a startup? Have you guys developed this app already? And y'all were like, yes. I said, well, absolutely. This is everything that I would have thought about if I was in tech. If I could have done those things, I would have created that. Like, this is amazing. Yeah. And like, y'all were so enthusiastic. Like, I love when someone's excited. I really do. I hate when people are like, yeah, so it's just like this thing, you know? Like, be excited, because that makes me excited. And I was like, well, sign me up. Whatever y'all want to do, I do too.
I love that. I love that. So does anybody have any questions? Because we're going to keep going if y'all don't. No? Okay, come up to the mic, please. Oh, and I saw your hair earlier today, girl. I love this color on you.
Thank you. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
So my question, I'm Imani.
Hi.
I'm a
Imani.
fashion designer. Go to Columbia College, Chicago. My question is, as you come up as a creator and see other creators start to want to be, content creators, how do you deal with if you see or say someone copying you in a certain type of way? How do you deal with that? Do you approach it? Do you address it? Because, like I said, I'm a fashion designer, and a lot of things that I do creatively come from myself, and I see others, trying to do what I do, and it really bothers
Fashion
me.
overtaking your designs.
No, I hope not. But for example, I do like campaigns, so I do a lot with like videography and photography, things that are like very creative that come from me. And I literally saw someone copy my video bar for bar. So I addressed it, but I would like to see what you would do if that was you.
I have had people
It's
take my
happened, yeah.
content several times. It's different because with just stealing my content, I just let them, because I don't, girl, okay, go ahead. Mine was funnier. I don't know what to tell you. But because you have intellectual property,
Right.
that's
Like
a little
yours is
different. I want you to really
yeah.
stand up. What I would suggest you doing is when you are doing these campaigns, try to put yourself on camera. Like, you yourself, you're also a part of the brand, and you can always be like, let's talk about this time I created this campaign. Your timestamps never lie.
That's true.
And you don't have to go off on that person or that brand unless it's like very, very intentional, especially if it's a large company, as you said, like Fashion Nova, where they have the platform to really undercut you. What I would say is, like I said, the timestamps don't lie, and the people who are going to follow you are always going to be there for you,
Yeah.
So just make sure you're targeting your core audience, and they're going to continue to follow you, and they're going to recognize that that other person is not being authentic.
Of course.
Hi everyone, my name is Sabrina
Hi.
Garba and I run a women's accelerator. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
I really appreciate and love when creators transition into CEOs, and one of the things I don't often hear talked about is how you manage administrative pieces, having to manage a budget now, having to manage a team, having to actually be at a meeting at a particular time, and what resources do you help when you aren't necessarily just being the talent, but also then have to run the business?
Well, we have our team with us. No, like I said, Valise, we're friends, and then Taylor is
My profile.
profile.
Yeah.
Okay. So everyone, we kind of brought our people on. I think that's like I said, pulling the people who we know who can help us with these type of things. And like I said, time management, there is a lot of having to go over and read stuff, and they'll tell you now I'm getting better with keeping up with the group chat because things are being said that are important and I need to go look at this and X, Y, and Z. I kind of have an assistant fake way, but it's a slow process, and I think definitely reaching people who already know you has been like a major key for me in terms of getting help and staying on track.
That's actually a huge reason why I ended up deciding it was time for me to quit my job. Was also I was making enough money to sustain. I was like, I can't pour into this the way I need to, working 10-hour shifts, and I need to take a step back. And then also having a child, it's a lot of organization with my parents, his father, and so forth and so forth. And having that team is very important to lean on because we can't be everywhere all at once, even though we may want to. And like she said, bringing people up with us, I think that's super important, especially as Black women, to work horizontally. You don't always have to reach for the stars. I don't need to be trying to call Michelle Obama today. Let's call your sister, call somebody call your friend who can help you out, and then you can rise together, and you trust that person even a little bit more than somebody that you kind of just meet off the internet, and it makes it a little bit more organic, and you all want the same things. So yeah.
I also want to add on to that as well. I mean, I know I'm here on behalf of Galaxy, but I also have a little bit of experience. I have my own TikTok series called How to Build Your Own Shit. Sorry if I can't cuss. But it really is about creators utilizing tech platforms, right? Team building obviously is a big part of entrepreneurship, but also being an entrepreneur and being a CEO is very lonely. And sometimes people around you may not even understand what you're trying to do. And so I definitely think team building and leaning on community is super important, and those friends that can take your pictures or can edit or just help out in any way, it's super important. But also, we are in the age of information and technology, and if I can Google how to, pay my taxes, I can Google platforms that can help me do admin, and I think that sometimes creators have a creator mind and not necessarily a business mind. And so if there are tools that can kind of help you logically process things a little bit better, I think that's also really helpful too.
Can I just ask you guys to add, like, when you had your big aha moment, like, okay, I need help now, along your journey?
So Taylor actually reached out to me earlier last year, but it was something very casual. But what's crazy is I was looking for a manager for 2 years. It was my aha moment happened a while because I wanted to level up and I wanted the opportunity to work with more brands, and I felt like I just am limited. You know, when you work with a team, a manager, publicist, they have the connections, they have the resources that you just don't. I didn't know nobody, and nobody knew me. And they were not answering my DMs. So I was like, I think I need some help. And so when she reached out, it was like perfect because I had already been on the lookout. I had applied to so many agencies that told me no. Like I said, they will tell you no. And so alignment is everything. So I'm glad she reached out because I was like, well, yes, this is what I've been asking for. Yeah. So yeah, when it starts getting real hectic and you feel like you're finna like explode, go ahead and ask for some help. Yeah.
I would say around the time we start the podcast, after our little situation, we got a lot of people coming to listen to the podcast, and they're like, oh, yeah, actually kind of funny. We was here for some drama, but y'all are nice. So then it was like, okay, now we're getting inundated with like DMs and messages and all this different stuff. And Valise was my publicist. Taylor was her manager. And then it was like, let's just all become one.
I can answer the question briefly. I'm gonna be real with you. My aha moment was when I got fired from the music label I was working at, and I think that was the first time I had been put in position of survivability. Mm-hmm. I could not pay my rent, and I had to figure it out, and I just didn't like, honestly, like, I'm a Virgo, so maybe that's what it is, but I just didn't like someone being in a position to take away my livelihood. And I was like, if anybody's going to create opportunity and actually sustain me, it's gonna be myself.
That was the Virgo.
That was definitely the Virgo.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Yeah, come up.
Hey, I've done a little bit of content myself, and I checked out the Galaxy platform. I know that there's different ways that you can make money. Like you can send people through DMs. You can do specific videos for somebody and like get paid. And of course, you can get sponsorships for doing content. So, how do you guys look at like multiple revenue streams for doing video? Because of course sponsorships or getting sponsored by a company and promoting them in the video is great, but sometimes you need to find different ways. So how do you guys look at like multiple revenue streams?
Great question.
That is like the only way we can survive as a content creator, by having income coming from every single angle. So of course we have the standard getting paid off of the platform, like we said earlier, like an RPM. So per view, essentially, from TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, wherever you are, even Galaxy, whatever that is. But then you have the brand sponsorships that's going to offer you a big amount of money to promote for one video or maybe a series. And then you have the ads that we have via our podcast through Spotify. Mm-hmm. We have to have all of those things because, to be honest, they're teeny tiny in comparison to like if you were to have a 9-to-5, you have a salary that is confirmed and secure every single month. The amount of money I get paid every month fluctuates. So it's one of those things where you have to diversify and you have to be everywhere if you want to be successful. And you have to just kind of grab a hold at whatever anybody is throwing at you that makes sense. I hope I answered your question.
And I will say, too, in terms of Galaxy, I think the really unique thing about the platform is that it's really curated for you and the stories that you want to tell. So, for example, there's a creator that we wanted to work with who has her own fashion line. And I said, okay, well, she's already making a lot of money. What great opportunity would it be for her to do a casting call in her world, right? And like maybe her super fans are able to vote and pay her $10, $15, $150 if they want to contribute of who actually gets casted in her fashion show, right? And so I think with Galaxy and a platform like that, you are able to be experimental, right? And I think that's really what creativity is about. It's not really meant to be perfect, but if you can make money and be experimental, then it eats, right? So thank you.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Of course. We have about 14 minutes left, so I'm gonna do another round to bounce scope this unity if anybody else has another question. If not, I would love to invite our CEO back up for a very special announcement. So thank you all for staying. No? Okay, Solo, come back up. Let's give him a round of applause, y'all. This man works hard.
Okay. Well, obviously, we just enjoyed a great conversation. Appreciate you, ladies. Like was set up here, our company was really born on the idea of finding a way to force creative ownership, self-sovereignty, and ultimate control of your destiny as a creator. And so today, we at Galaxy are proud to announce a $1 million accelerator fund called the It's Your World Fund, where we are going to be selecting 50 content creators. Mecca and Jamila are actually the first ones that we're going to be having into this program, where content creators are going to be eligible for up to $20,000 in rewards to build their own communities on Galaxy, aka build your own shit that no one can take away from you. We hope that with this fund, we can invest in the creator economy, self-sovereignty, and forge a new era of ownership where content creators are really able to monetize the content and the IP that they spend so much time working on. So appreciate you guys for taking the time to come to the panel. Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.